English Each Day presents Natalia's journey to London. When I first landed in London, the cold air hit my face like a silent welcome. It wasn't the kind of cold I knew from Polish winters, where snow blankets the streets and muffles the sound of life. This was different, humid, piercing, and accompanied by a drizzle that seemed to settle into my bones. But I was here, finally, in the city I had dreamed about for years. 6 months. Just 6 months. That's what I told myself as I dragged my suitcase through the crowded streets, searching for the bus stop that would take me to my temporary home. I had never lived outside of Poland before. Warsaw had been my world, and though I loved it, the old streets, the smell of fresh bread from the bakery near my apartment, the comforting sound of my mother's voice on a Sunday morning, I knew I needed something more. I needed to prove to myself that I could do it, that I could survive in a foreign country, speaking a language that wasn't mine, building a life from scratch. London was my challenge. The first few weeks were a blur of accents I struggled to understand, endless cups of tea, and small victories, like ordering coffee without hesitating or finding my way through the underground without getting lost. My flat was small, shared with 2 other students, one from Spain and the other from Japan. We communicated in a mix of broken English, gestures, and laughter. It was comforting to know I wasn't alone in this struggle. University was harder than I had imagined. The lectures were fast-paced, the professors spoke as if everyone was a native speaker, and the readings were endless. I spent my nights hunched over my laptop, translating words, trying to catch up. There were moments of frustration, moments when I questioned why I had ever thought this was a good idea. But then there were moments of magic. One evening, after a particularly difficult class, I found myself wandering through Covent Garden. The street performers were out, filling the air with music and laughter. I stood there, watching a violinist play with such emotion that, for a moment, I forgot everything else. London had a way of doing that, reminding me that beauty could be found in the simplest moments. And then, of course, there were the friendships. It started with small conversations after class, hesitant at first, then growing into something deeper. Sophia, from Italy, who always had a story to tell. Mark, from Canada, who spoke slowly so I could understand. And Layla, from France, who struggled with English as much as I did but never let it stop her. We helped each other, laughed at our mistakes, and celebrated our small wins. Like the first time I managed to write an entire essay without using Google Translate. One of my favorite memories was the night we decided to explore London together. We had no plan, just a list of places we wanted to see: Big Ben, Tower Bridge, the little bookshop that Mark swore had the best collection of classic novels. We walked for hours, stopping for coffee, taking pictures, talking about our lives back home. It was in those moments that I realized something. I was no longer just surviving in London. I was living. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Every week, we share new stories in English to help you practice and challenge yourself. This story is great for intermediate English learners. Not too difficult, but just enough to push you to improve. Stay with us for more. As the months passed, I felt myself changing. My English was getting better, but more than that, I was growing in ways I hadn't expected. I was learning to be alone without feeling lonely, to make mistakes without being ashamed, to ask for help when I needed it. There were, of course, moments of homesickness. Some days, I missed my mother's cooking so much that I tried to recreate her pierogi in our tiny kitchen, much to the amusement of my flatmates. It wasn't the same, but it was close enough to bring me comfort. I missed the Polish language, the ease of slipping into conversation without thinking, but I also loved the challenge of English, the way it forced me to be present, to pay attention. My time in London was coming to an end faster than I had expected. One evening, as I sat in a cafe near my university, staring at my half-finished essay, I realized that I didn't want to leave. Not yet. The thought surprised me. 6 months ago, I had counted down the days until I could go home. Now I was trying to hold on to them. On my last night, my friends threw me a small farewell party. We sat on the floor of our apartment, eating takeout, reminiscing about our time together. "You have to come back," Sophia said, raising her glass. "Promise us." I laughed, but in my heart, I knew she was right. London had become a part of me. And though I was returning to Poland, I wasn't the same person who had arrived all those months ago. As I boarded the plane, I looked out at the city one last time. London had tested me, challenged me, and, in the end, changed me. I wasn't just a visitor anymore. I was someone who had lived here, struggled here, grown here, and maybe, just maybe, I would return. The end.